Hey, today's I'm talking about X-Men 3, also known as X-Men: The Last Stand. Came out in 2006. Stars Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. Smaller roles this time around for James Marsden as Cyclops and Rebecca Romaine Stamos as Mystique. And now we have Jean Grey, played by Famke Janssen, up at the forefront. And behind the scenes, instead of the origins director of the first two movies, Bryan Singer, now we have Brett Ratner. At the time, it seemed like a dramatic behind-the-scenes shift, but looking back, it actually seems quite natural and, in fact, might have added to the potential increase of quality that the series seemed to have had over the next few films for those who've watched them, and from what I'll remember here while discussing this one on my rewatch here. Okay, so this movie's got a good hook right at the beginning. Apparently this was the first time this was used. They used, from what I read, a computer program developed at the time called Lola to de-age Professor X and Magneto, played by Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen. Looking back, it's not as good as like the current de-aging, and there's they call it the uncanny valley, where it looks so realistic that it's like unrealistic. But it's not good to like over analyze things like that. It does the job that it's supposed to do, and it conveys these are younger versions of our older actors. And it's a meeting that they have where they're interviewing some parents for this little girl who has these powers that she just can't control, which is what the Mansion and X-Men do best. And it was interesting to see this point in time when they weren't enemies, Professor X and Magneto. So it's a very interesting opening, and there's this little girl, she comes out and you don't really know what's going on, and it turns out she has pretty similar powers to Professor X, and lots of cars and windows are smashed and things, and she doesn't know what's going on, kind of, and her parents are like, I guess she's a prime candidate for your school. So from there, we're just kind of introduced to all the other characters. This movie's very streamlined. I remember the originals, enjoying them a lot, but as with most origin stories, watching them on rewatches, they kind of drag a lot because they're introducing a lot of characters and backstories, and the first time you watch it, it's fascinating, but once you got that all in your mind and memory, it can kind of be a slog to get through. So that's kind of why I enjoyed this one after some years have gone by. It's 2024 now. This came out in 2006. I've obviously seen it a couple times between then, but they said that this movie was given a strict deadline on filming. It was May 2005, and then or March 2005, and then they wanted it out in May 2006. So it's a little over a year from start to finish from being greenlit, supposedly. So a lot of the directors didn't want to take that on. They were intimidated by Bryan Singer's first two movies, but thankfully we had Brett Ratner, who was up to the task. And although at the time it seemed his style was possibly too different, I think over time now it seems like he was kind of just right. So the movie just is snappy. It cuts to the chase. It's got a lot of good choices, and the story, that's probably what got to people the most. But it does what it does, and he is up to the task of conveying it properly. Okay, so some trivia bits. This time is the line "Oh My Stars and Garters" by Kelsey Grammer was included in the movie mostly due to executive producer Kevin Feig's insistence. And oh, what a classic line that is. Then we got Stan Lee and Chris Claremont credited in the opening sequence as respectively Water Hose Man and Lawnmower Man. Stan Lee was one of the creators, and Chris Claremont helped create the Dark Phoenix saga originally. Then Rebecca Romaine, Mystique, and James Marsden's Cyclops roles were reduced substantially as the movie was rushed into production and the two members had prior scheduling conflicts. Other directors considered for the movie: Peter Berg, Zack Snyder, and Joss Whedon. Snyder turned it down filming commitments due to 300, while Whedon was in favor of writing and directing a Wonder Woman movie, which unfortunately never came through. However, Whedon did go on and was hired to direct Avengers and Avengers Age of Ultron, set within the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The first movie in the franchise in which Jean Grey becomes Dark Phoenix, the other being X-Men Dark Phoenix, 2019. Simon Kinberg and Zach Penn had sons born during the production of the movie. The second comic book film for both Ben Foster and Michael Murphy. Murphy appeared as the mayor in Batman Returns, and Foster played Dave in 2004's Punisher. Shawn Ashmore, being from Toronto, has experience with ice skating and so had no trouble with his skating scenes with Ellen Elliott Page, who is from Nova Scotia, had none, so they had to have lessons. So some more trivia: Bryan Singer dropped out to direct Superman Returns 2006. Ironically, Brett Ratner, who was considered for directing said film, replaced him to direct this movie. The character Callisto has been given entirely new powers in the movie. In the comics, Callisto is merely enhanced strength, speed, and agility, and her main power was the ability to instantly calculate the tactical solution to any problem. Her powers in the movie of super speed and the ability to detect mutants seem to be a combination of Quicksilver, Mystique's son, and either her comic book ally Caliban or Sage, both of whom can detect mutants. This is one of the first movies to feature the Army combat uniform when the soldiers switched to it from their woodland BDUs to guard the Alcatraz facility. Cyclops' sunglasses are modified Oakley's Penny model and limited edition sunglasses with a custom tint created specifically for this movie. Also, Hank McCoy's wears Oakley Y3 glasses especially made to fit his character. Kelsey Grammer's casting as Beast is somewhat ironic. In the Frasier 1993 Season 8, Episode 12, The Show Must Go On, Off, Frasier Grammer goes to a comic book convention to look for X-Men comics for his son. Being a snob and obviously dismissing comics as lowbrow and unintelligent, he felt that the comic books would contribute to the decline of his son's intellect. The automobile Professor Xavier and Eric Lesher are used in the beginning of the film as a Mercedes-Benz 600. We got a lot of familiar faces. The guy from Predator, he's in this movie. The guy who shaves a lot and breaks the razor, African-American guy. And he fits very well. He's an interesting features and fits right in the universe. Kelsey Grammer, like, oh my stars and garters. Just that line alone makes this movie like totally worth it. And just his performance and just being himself, but like some of the best makeup in the last 50 years, basically. And then like knowing that trivia bit that there was the episode of Frasier that specifically was about like Frasier not liking the X-Men, and then him behind the scenes like doing his first audition ever and wanting this role more than anything. It's pretty fascinating, and it kind of seems like it wants something that I'd want to know more about. Maybe I'll look up some interviews. If I was ever to meet the guy, I'd ask him personally what's the deal, you know. But regardless, I think the stars were basically aligned, and these things falling into place means that this movie definitely needs to be re-examined. Okay, so that's my perspective on X-Men 3, directed by Brett Ratner, starring the familiar cast led by Hugh Jackman and Famke Janssen, James Marsden, Halle Berry, Kelsey Grammer, and so on and so forth. Came out in 2006. The version I watched was actually a fan edition that included some of the deleted scenes and rearranged some stuff. That one's called the Phoenix edition, so look that up online as long as you have a rental or a purchase of the original. And I'd like to compare it to the original. It can't be that much different. All the hard labor was done on set and the special effects work, so I'm pretty certain that I'm fairly close to the perception of the original were I to watch that as well right now. But besides that, if you like my perspective on this film, press like. And if you like my other perspectives, press subscribe. And this is Nicholas on Film. Until next time.
We're outnumbered. I'm not gonna lie to you. But we lost Scott. We lost a professor. If we don't fight now, everything they stood for will die with them. I'm not gonna let that happen. Are you? Then we stand together. X-Men. All of us.
We few. We happy few. We band of brothers. For he who sheds his blood with me this day shall be my brother. Be he ne'er so vile, this day shall gentle his condition. And men in England now abed will count their manhoods cheap. They were not here with us to fight on Crispin's day.
We're in.